Sorry this is a little bit late, but people are still talking about this. Captain America Brave New World has been out in theaters for almost a week now, so it's finally time for my spoiler talk. That is a spoiler warning. If you have not seen Captain America Brave New World and you're planning on it, best to fly away from this video because I will be talking about what happens in this movie in detail. If you have seen it or you don't care, then you're good to stick around. Alright, let's dive in. So the movie begins with President Ross's acceptance speech. He's just been elected, but then via news reports we get a little bit of backstory recounting the events of The Incredible Hulk, which came out in 2008, pretty much just 1 month after Iron Man. Yeah, it was the second movie overall in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And watching this movie, Brave New World, you realize that not only is it a follow-up to Falcon and Winter Soldier, sure, but it is also kind of a follow-up to The Incredible Hulk. It is kind of a pseudo-sequel to that movie, which I've heard is actually one of the biggest complaints about this movie, is that it's trying to be too many things. Like, it's trying to be a Captain America movie and an Incredible Hulk sequel at the same time. Like, we even see at a point a flashback to General Ross giving an angry speech when he has the mustache that he had when he was played by William Hurt. He's been given the nickname Hulk Hunter because it shows footage from the Hulk versus Abomination fight from the end of The Incredible Hulk. And with all the elements from that movie that are in this movie, I was actually really pleasantly surprised by that. Because I do think The Incredible Hulk is a really good movie and it's criminally underrated. It was nice to see this movie give it some love and address some things that that movie did leave open. I'll get to those. So Captain America's first mission in this movie is to track down Sidewinder, Giancarlo Esposito's character, and the Serpent Society, which I remember Serpent Society was like the fake name of Captain America 3 before Kevin Feige was like, oh yeah, it's not Serpent Society, it's actually Civil War. Cool to see that actually be brought back for Brave New World. I thought that was clever. But when Cap is throwing down in this scene, dude, it's awesome. I love the fact that his suit, like his wings in particular, they can absorb the kinetic energy like Black Panther's suit, because as we saw in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the suit was a gift from the Wakandans for helping them out. So the suit has Black Panther-esque abilities, and I thought that was really cool, also with how they combine with his Cap, like, shield throwing abilities. Like, Sam Wilson as Captain America is really a mix of 3 different superheroes: Captain America, Falcon, and Black Panther. That's awesome. That makes him a different Captain America than Steve Rogers was. Makes him unique. That's really cool, and I love his combat fighting style too. I really don't have too much of a problem with the fighting choreography in this movie, except for the scene I was talking about in my spoiler-free review where the lights were flickering and it was like epilepsy. Other than that though, it was really cool. So Sam Wilson meets up with President Ross, who wants to rebuild the Avengers. This is actually kind of a big deal because, yeah, since the events of Avengers Endgame, there has not been an official Avengers team in the MCU. Everyone's been sort of scattered doing their own thing. But now with some pretty big shit looming on the horizon, we should probably get the band back together. We'll get back to this. So we come to the Celestial Island World Summit. So yeah, Celestial Island. This is what became of Tiamat after the events of Eternals, finally being touched on in the MCU again after 3¼ years. And President Ross explains that a new element has been found from this island, and it is adamantium. So adamantium is most well known in the comics for being what Wolverine's new skeleton is made out of, after the Weapon X project and all that. It's X-Men shit. It's tougher than vibranium, it's like indestructible, which is really cool, more X-Men elements being implemented into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But after thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute, does that really make sense? Because again, looking back on the end of Eternals, Cersei, played by Gemma Chan, she prevented the emergence from happening by turning Tiamat into marble, because that's what she can do. She can turn a form of matter into another form of matter. So if Tiamat was turned entirely to marble, then where did the adamantium come from? Yeah, that to me is a bit of a plot hole, but you know what? It's fiction, I'll roll with it. And we learned that the first and only refined sample of adamantium, that's what Sidewinder was trying to steal earlier. And then the attack happens. Isaiah Bradley and a couple other people, they go nuts, because the song Mr. Blue starts playing overhead. First time I heard those words, Mr. Blue, in the movie, I was like, that's a clever Easter egg, because that's the code name that Samuel Stearns went by in The Incredible Hulk, Mr. Blue. That was a good Easter egg, I liked it. And unfortunately, Isaiah Bradley is incarcerated again, which really sucks for him, man. I felt so bad for him in this movie, dude. He's really like one of the most sympathetic characters in the entirety of the MCU at this point, for me anyway. The guy's just miserable, he can't catch a break. So Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres, who is the new Falcon, are going to investigate this, behind President Ross's back. However, they are being opposed by Ruth Bat Saraf, who, like I said in my spoiler-free review, is not the deepest character in this movie. Yeah, she's in it, but I didn't really feel like she needed to be, if I'm being honest. And not gonna lie, seeing her in her suit, I was like, alright, that just kind of looks like a tracksuit. Is that supposed to be like her superhero Sabra outfit? I don't know, to me it just looked kind of lame or CW-ish. I hate saying that because this has a much bigger budget than CW shows, I know that, but I don't know, it just wasn't really clicking for me. I do hope that Sabra does get developed into a deeper character in the future, because she's got potential for sure. But for now though, I don't really care about her that much. much. Just like I didn't really care for Black Widow in her first appearance in Iron Man 2 all those years ago. Yeah, it's an easy comparison. Also makes sense because Sabra happens to be an ex-Black Widow. Yeah, that further boosts the parallel. And she does eventually come around and end up joining our side. So cool. A little bit later on, we are reintroduced to Samuel Stearns, aka the leader, played by Tim Blake Nelson, from The Incredible Hulk. Turns out he is the main villain in this movie. So first of all, touching on his look, I don't really have too much of a problem with it. I mean, sure, it was a little freaky to look at, and maybe not entirely comic book accurate, but I thought the design was pretty cool, honestly. He's got like those brain ridges like coming out of his head, and he's all green. So there is some resemblance to his comic book counterpart. I guess they just didn't want to give him a big head. We didn't want to have Dr. Hector Hammond flashbacks from Green Lantern. Alright, fair enough. So here's his deal. This is actually really cool. We learned that after the events of The Incredible Hulk all those years ago, and the big Hulk versus Abomination fight, people needed someone to blame. They needed a scapegoat. So Thaddeus Ross framed Samuel Stearns for it, which isn't entirely inaccurate, because in that movie, Samuel Stearns did help create the Abomination, so his framing wasn't entirely false, but yeah, so he's been in prison all these years. But Thaddeus Ross was dying of heart failure. We've known that ever since Captain America Civil War.
I had a heart attack. I dropped right in the middle of my backswing.
So since Ross was dying, he had Stearns make pills for him to keep him alive in exchange for his eventual freedom. Love how he said that in the movie too. 'Cause I was dying, god damn it! Harrison Ford's never been grumblier. But unfortunately, Ross got too scared. He didn't want to lose those pills. He didn't want to die right away because he wanted a chance to make amends with his daughter, Betty Ross, Liv Tyler's character from The Incredible Hulk. So out of that fear and paranoia, Ross kept Stearns imprisoned. Well, Stearns wasn't too happy about that, naturally. So he decided to get back at him by lacing the pills with gamma radiation. More on that later. And you know, the whole mind control thing, he comes up with a pretty semi-clever plan. He's mind controlling people with the flashes of the phones, and then he plays a song that'll trigger people to do what he wants them to do, and move like robots. That was strange. Eventually, we get to the big Celestial Island action scene, which, yeah, this was awesome. Really cool to see in IMAX. And this big scene ultimately happens because Japan is moving in on the rest of the adamantium, and Ross is dicking out. He's like, no, I'm not leaving empty-handed. If anyone's gonna have control over this new element, it's gonna be us. Make the call! So now the US and Japan are both there, but then 2 US pilots are mind-controlled by Stearns to fire upon Japan, and so that's why Captain America and Falcon go out there to de-escalate the situation. They try to take down the US pilots, and eventually they do succeed, so yay. But it was really cool how the scene ended though, because Stearns is talking to Ross on the phone, he's like, release your rage. And Ross is like, he's freaking out, he almost does Hulk out, we see his eyes turning red, but then when Cap finishes up, the whole thing does de-escalate. So yeah, no Red Hulk quite just yet. Sorry Stearns, go cry about it. The unfortunate thing is that Joaquin Torres is badly injured here, so he pretty much sits out the rest of the movie. However, that does lead to one of our cameos in this movie. Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, shows up to give Sam Wilson a pep talk. I honestly didn't see that coming. I probably should have, but hey, it was a cool surprise. It was probably one of the reshoots though. So yeah, he gives Sam his pep talk, then he's like, I got a campaign thing to get to. So stupid. I was like, yeah, alright, that's gonna lead right into Thunderbolts, because we know he is gonna be a newly elected congressman in that movie. It was funny, like when the scene was done, I was like, see you in May, just a few months from now. So because Stearns' big Indian Ocean plan didn't work for him, he is forced to turn himself in, which alright, that is good, but not before he gets his last laugh. Yep, he's got his contingency, because President Ross steps up to address what happened, and right when I saw the setting, I was like, here we go, because Stearns ends up playing their previous phone call over the speakers of him baiting Ross, and that is ultimately what is gonna trigger him and his transformation into Red Hulk. And so we get our climactic Captain America versus Red Hulk fight, which like I said, it's awesome. I thought it was a completely kick-ass action scene. I mean, Harrison Ford doing the motion capture for Red Hulk, he looks great. Although I will admit, there was a part of me that thought to myself, maybe it would have been best if they didn't show Red Hulk in any of the marketing for this movie. That would have been a great surprise. But that being said, I do understand why he was in the marketing, because people would have guessed and figured it out. I'm reminded of Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, they tried to hide the fact that Tobey and Andrew were going to be in it, but people figured it out, and we knew long before the movie came out that they were going to be in it. People are good at guessing these things. Plus the fact that Red Hulk is a pretty big selling point for this movie. Yeah, people will go see this movie if they know that Red Hulk is in it. I don't think that turned out to be quite true, but my point is I understand why he was in the marketing. It's a bummer, really. But anyway, yeah, the fight is great. Red Hulk's jumping around and throwing shit at Cap, and the fight ultimately ends by Cap talking Red Hulk down. They're at the cherry blossoms, and Cap's like, this is not what Betty would want, and then Red Hulk changes back into Ross off screen, because, you know, expensive effect. That bummed me out too, I'll admit. Damn, why did She-Hulk Attorney at Law have to address that in its finale?
Wait until the camera is off you.
So yeah, Red Hulk is taken down, and President Ross does turn himself in for his actions. Very admirable, I might add. I have to agree with Sam Wilson on that. We have our epilogue. Isaiah Bradley is released released from prison. Thank goodness. I just hope that guy can be happy now, please. So yeah, Ross is in the raft now. Cool to see that location again. He's given up his presidency. So now is there gonna be a vacuum? I don't know who's gonna take over that spot. We were never told who the vice president is, so I don't know. And Liv Tyler shows up as Betty Ross in a cameo for all of about 5 seconds. She's like, hi dad, let's make amends. Okay. End scene. I mean, yeah, sure, she did have that voice cameo also earlier, but hey, you know, it was nice to see, and for nothing else, for continuity's sake. Glad to know that those two are finally gonna work things out, after she never forgave him for what he did in The Incredible Hulk, hunting down the Hulk, Bruce Banner, who was her boyfriend. So yeah, good for them. It's all gonna work out. And so Sam Wilson is talking with Joaquin Torres, who's recovering in the hospital, and he's like, all right, we're gonna rebuild the Avengers now. So yeah, all right, it's coming. Sam Wilson, Captain America, is going to rebuild the Avengers with Joaquin Torres Falcon by his side. Let's get this shit going. Cool. And then we come to the post-credits scene, which is Sam Wilson talking to Samuel Stearns in the raft, who pretty much just says, you think this is the only world? There's bigger shit coming. Basically, he's warning Sam of the multiverse. This I see as build-up for Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. That's pretty exciting to me. So in conclusion, Captain America Brave New World, I still think it's a pretty solid movie. Yeah, it's got quite a few plot holes now that I really think about it and broke it down. So yeah, it's not the best MCU movie ever, but again, I don't count it among the worst either. It has really solid action, great performances from the cast, and the overall story I think is actually pretty decent. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. Like, yeah, Sam Wilson is gonna head up the Avengers now. Is he gonna be at the forefront? Is he gonna lead the team in Doomsday and Secret Wars? I'd be down for that. Definitely can't wait to see. So that'll be my question for you, my fellow moviegoers. What are your theories and predictions for where the events of this movie might lead to in the future? Let's get that conversation going. So whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!